Okay, yeah, so we're going to do a tutorial on streets and trips, and first thing I'm going to do is start and open up Streets and Trips 2011. I'm actually only on the 60-day free trial version. Um, so I've just had this for one day. I've only used this product for one day, but it just seems like it's an amazing product. I had quite a bit of success with it. This is a pretty high-end computer, so it seems like it does take a little bit of horsepower to run this thing. But I do have a bunch of addresses as Microsoft Excel that I want to get things delivered to, and it's broken down right now by county because it's about 300 delivery points, and it's just not realistic to get that done in a day. So I'm trying to break this up into reasonable chunks. I'll kind of give you those ideas, but we're going to go into Data, Import Data Wizard, and there's my September Tarrant route. I've already got that in Excel. It's in sheet 1. I know it's kind of hard to remember. You just remember what sheet your stuff is in. These are my field names: name, address, city, state, zip. And in my database, they happen to be. Actually, I think mine says zip code. They're asking me what is that zip. It's pretty smart to figure out what an address looks like. There's some other columns in my Excel spreadsheet over up here to the right that it doesn't. It wants to know, hey, is this the 3-digit zip code? Is this the census tract? It's none of those, so I'm just going to skip those superfluous columns, as I like to sound smart. And basically, we got name, just basically name, address, city, state, zip. First row contains column headings. It figured all that out. It's pretty bright, actually. And I'm going to import 262 records. But here's what I thought was really interesting about this product. There's 16 records that it cannot find on its mapping, and part of that has to do with synonymous names for cities. Like, I have a record that's in Azle, Texas, and it's saying it's possibly that's a same address in Fort Worth, and I know this area, and I know Azle and Fort Worth are synonymous. So if I see, or can be synonymous, so if I see something that's synonymous here, I'm just going to say, okay, yep. Richland Hills and Fort Worth are synonymous, yep. Keller and Fort Worth are synonymous, yes. Now here's one that's interesting. It came up with Sugarland, which I believe is down by Houston. This is not in Tarrant County, so I am for sure going to just skip this record. And then for the rest of these, I've done this before, so I know they're all Keller, Fort Worth, Keller, Fort Worth, Keller, Fort Worth. Okay, so now we have an area. Now, if I were to say, okay, I want to get this whole thing delivered, I'm right-clicking and dragging and do this, it's going to draw me a 3-day or 4-day delivery route, and that's not going to work for me because when you do that, let's say you started here on day 1 and got all the way to here, on day 2 you're going to start here, and that just doesn't make any sense because I live up in this area. It's just going to depend on where you live. But so we want to try to find, and it's kind of an iterative process, a delivery area that we can get done in a given day. You could, depending on how the highways are structured, I mean, I've thought of this a couple ways. I mean, you could deliver, I'm just going to zoom just a little bit differently here. That's too much. Okay. We could right-click and, okay, so what we need to do first, though, is go to the route page and go to the route options. I am going to start driving at 8 a.m. and I want to be done by 5, but, if we can get that done within, an hour of that, I'm fine. I might even bump that a little bit more because I don't want to stop in the middle of delivery and go home when I only got 4 left. So, if the route doesn't look right, I'm just going to have to reroute it. I do want to assume that there's going to be stopping every 15 minutes after 4 hours of driving. Driving speed, I just using the average. There's fuel cost, which I don't really care about right now, and those are the only options I want to set. So when I go into the route and go to the route planner, I want to basically, these are all points I need to get to, and I want to add them to the route. Now you could right click on them and get them into the route, add as a stop. But that would be very difficult to do all of these. So there's thankfully a way that I can right click and drag and select, for instance, a delivery area that looks like this. Now that's an outlier there. I don't know if you can see that right there at the bottom right. And I'm questioning whether I want to go there or not because it's just not a lot of bang for your buck. There's just nothing over there. It's going to kind of mess up my routing a little bit. So I'm going to come back this way a little bit. And I wonder if I can move this up a little bit. I messed that up. Sorry. One more time. Zoom out just a little bit. I'm having trouble with the zoom here. I'm just going to click and drag this down a little bit because I really know that I can't deliver this whole route in a day because I've actually done some of these already and realized that, wow, that's just going to be a 3-day trip. So I'm just going to focus on everything north of Interstate 30 for now. And go there. I'm going to add these to the route. So all I had to do is just select them in that big chunk. But here's an interesting thing. There's, 8 or 9 stops up here. I really like this area, so I'm going to keep them on there. But if I didn't want to go up here because, it was just, too far out of the way, you could right-click at it and say, delete these push pins, as stops. I really don't want to go here. And what I'm kind of looking for is anything where, the density goes way down. In fact, I'm actually going to come down here. In terms of bang for your buck, as we get down here, I'm trying to think. I really don't want to go that far south. So I'm going to, at least on this given day. Well, I'm not going to overcomplicate this, but you get the idea. You could go down here and get rid of these, and get rid of these and not go here on this day. You just have to remember that, on day 2 you do want to pick that up because on day 2 you're going to deliver south. So we're trying to find a good stopping point, to draw these boundaries. We could, at the bottom of the screen here, I don't know if you can see this, there's a, I'm just going to shrink this to be sure. There's a button down here that says Optimize Stops, to where it's going to try to figure out the best routing. We don't want to click that until we know where we're starting. So you want to right click here and choose this pin. I left clicked on it, I'm sorry. Left click on that pin and then right click for options, route, adding as a starting point. So if I lived up here and I wanted to start here and I wanted to end here at the end of the day because I want to be close to my house when I'm done, I'm going to add that as an ending point. You don't want to end up over here and have all this delivered and then have to drive all the way back home. So I'm trying to get it to say, okay, start here and start delivering these points, then end here. Now that it knows that, I'm going to click this Optimize Stops button. That Optimize Stops button will, using some type of algorithm that's just probably unreal, figuring out the best way to go to all these points and stop. The one thing I didn't see on here, which I need to research a little bit more, is, if you're going to assume it takes you 2 minutes per stop, to get out of the car, get the thing delivered, not certain that is calculated in the mix. We'll take a look and see what it looks like. Go back to the maximize screen here. Yeah, it doesn't want me to do that. Okay, so it's optimized the route, and as you can see, nothing changed because it was just doing math. It was getting ready for me to do this. Route, it's under route, get directions. Okay, it came up with this route, and obviously I picked too many data points. it's saying that, you know, given all my assumptions, that I don't want to really drive past, you know, 8 to, let's see, where did it stop? 8 to 5, you know, and I said I had a 2 hour variance. It just shoved me into day 2. And, you know, as you notice, I stopped at, let's just take a look at this right quick. It says I stop here at 8 a.m. and it's not leaving me any time here at each stop to, you know, do any work. So we're going to be adding 8:07, 8:08. It looks like it's giving me a minute here. That 8:07 I arrive and 8:08 I leave. Let's just double check that right quick. So I arrive here at 8:22 and I leave at 8:22, and that might be a problem because, you know, there's going to be more than a minute probably on average at these stops. I mean, it might be right, probably more like 2 minutes, but when you're talking about 80 stops, you're adding another hour to it. So it might be a situation where you need to plan your route to where, you know, it's 7 hour delivery route, giving you, you know, an hour for, you know, for stops, you know, like, you know, if it's 60 stops and it's an extra 1 minute per stop, that's gonna be another hour. So anyway, you know, it is an art on this. You know, obviously I drew in too many push pins, too many stop points, and realistically, you know, this isn't a route that is a very good one, because, you know, I'm starting by my house and I don't even get the whole route delivered. So I either need to choose fewer pins, or instead of doing a north of I-30, you know, route, I might do a, you know, a cut the city in half vertically instead of horizontally like I did, and see what that does. That might actually be a lot more efficient. You know, it's kind of, like I say, more of an art than a science, but, you know, once you have the way you want to get this done, this is an excellent tool, you know, for you to choose, hey, where do I want to start, where do I want to end, and how much do I want to do today. You know, we kind of know if we selected this whole area, it's about 3 days of driving. It's about 25 hours. You could cut it up whatever's most convenient for you, and you know, that's basically what the compensation is based on.